Good evening, everyone. You should be able to see the screen I'm sharing with you. It says, welcome to BullCharts Remote User Group webinar. Please stand by starting shortly. We're starting now. The next slide I'm sharing says the user group webinar might be a demonstration of software or a coordinated discussion. Strongly recommended to use a headset. So if you're not using one this time, please do it next time because it does tend to give us better quality audio. The other thing that this equipment is usually good at doing is picking up any little sniff or bit of background noise, and if I can hear that, I might mute people if I think I know where it's coming from. If we do that, you can unmute yourself at any time, but if you've noticed noise at your end, please feel free to mute yourself, but you can unmute anytime. And that's about all. So let's get underway. Hopefully everyone could see those blue slides I was sharing. I'm now showing you the agenda that we used for last Wednesday's Melbourne meeting. And in that session, the plan was to have a sneak preview of version 4.4. I believe that some of you are all running 4.4 as guinea pigs, so very good, well done. Thanks for being brave. That'll teach you putting your hand up and complaining about things that don't work too often, or simply volunteering. I know a couple of the guys in Melbourne complain to Brendan Lansdowne too often, so he's asked them to be guinea pigs.
That's good.
Yeah, it hasn't shut them up though. They're now demanding more and more. The agenda also said there's time there to ask questions about BullCharts. If you've got a question that you want an answer to, in the agenda there's also just a simple reminder that in the webinar session a couple of months ago, when I demonstrated the new features in versions 4 to 4.3, I recorded the session, and at the moment there is a YouTube video of that. It runs for 70 minutes. It's up on the web. The link there is in the agenda. It's on one of my web pages, the user group web page that I'm running for the group. My plan was to edit that down into smaller pieces, 1 2 or 3 minute video for each feature. Haven't done that yet. That's still on my to-do list if I can find some time. That's all that's in the agenda. In the minutes we did have 10 people present, which was good, and another 3 who couldn't. That would have been 13. There is a link there in the minutes. That link in the minutes goes to a What's New document. This is what it looks like here. Version 4.4 summary of features. It's only a one-pager. I prepared that in a quick hurry late last week, so that we had a list that was put on the table for last Wednesday's discussion and available for you guys tonight. So that's why it's in. There's a link there in the minutes of last week's meeting. Let's talk about version 4.4. And what I'll do is I'll swing across my BullCharts and show you my screen, and then we'll have a look at this summary list of features. Now here's my screen. Here's a summary list. Now the first item, F5 key, we'll explain that. It's fairly straightforward. What some of you may have found is that if you've started up BullCharts and you've started it up before 7:30 p.m. of a night time, and a price chart does not show today's data, it only shows, so it doesn't show today's, but it only shows up until yesterday, and then you download the daily data, but you now want to see today's candle and volume information. What a lot of people have done in the past is they've changed the stock they're looking to from current stock to a different one and back again. What the guys have done is, it says here, the F5 key will manually refresh all open charts after data download. So all you need to do is tap the function key F5 on the keyboard, and that will refresh the screen for you and show you the latest data. If you've been away on holidays for a week and you're missing a week's worth of data from the screen, you can download all the missing data. When it's downloaded, then tap function key F5, and the last 5 days will appear on the screen in the chart. So that's what that first one is a reference to. Identify charts using metastock data. What I'll do is I'll also show you the what's new entry in the knowledge base. Now let's digress for a minute and point out, and we've looked at this previously, so you might have all seen it. Over recent months, Brendan and the boys have put in place a new knowledge base for BullCharts, and you can go to it any time. To find it, go to bullcharts.com.au, and on their screen, scroll down until on the left somewhere, oh there it is right at the bottom, there's a link to knowledge base. Click on knowledge base and you get this screen where you can search for something in the knowledge base, type it in across the top here and click search, or scroll down. There are some headings, BullCharts app, BullCharts support, and further down there's actually a heading called uncategorized, and then a long list of knowledge base entries that are not yet categorized into a heading. And you can find something on the page by using the browser Control F, which is to search or find, edit, find. There it is in the browser, find, Control F. And that'll find things on the page. Now, there is a heading here for what's new, and if you click on what's new, you get to this screen here, which shows you what's new in recent versions. So that's 4.3 and 4.2 and 4.1. There's no entry there yet, nothing for version 4.4, but there is a version 4.4 what's new. It's just that there's no entry to it yet. But what I'll do is I'll scroll down this page and show you some of the things in here, because there is useful reference to what I've got in my what's new summary. So in the summary features, item 2 says identify charts that are using metastock data with an asterisk with a security code in the price chart. So if we scroll down here, the first item there says F5 manually refresh. We've just looked at that. And there's the refresh on a drop-down menu as well. So we can right-click on the screen, fix debug, identify charts that are using metastock data. So if you have a look at the price chart screen here, you can see that the symbol code is DAU, and right next to it there's a little asterisk. So that asterisk indicates that you're looking at metastock data, not data out of the BullCharts database. So that's what that's a reference to. Now, a number of the rest of these few are all related to something in particular that I'll show you on my BullCharts screen. On my BullCharts screen, if you have a look near the top right corner, across the header or header pane for that price pane, you can see a plus sign right in the top left-hand corner, then the letters XAO, because we're looking at the All Ords Index, then a small lowercase d, meaning daily data, then the closing price for today, the latest one available, then in brackets, the change today in points or value or price if it's a security, and the percentage change. So all of that has been edited or revised to make it more abbreviated, to take up less space, so that when we add extra things to the chart, like maybe Guppy's multiple moving average, that doesn't put a whole lot of things across the chart. Or if we add lots of indicators, let's add another one. Every time you add an indicator here, it takes up more real estate across the top. And what was happening before was that text across the top of that price chart was filling up the space and running off the right of the screen. And lots of people used to complain and say that it was taking up too much space. So what they've done now is abbreviated that as much as they can. I'm just going to use Control D to delete everything on that screen. So regarding all of this abbreviated stuff in the top there, in the What's New document, what I've got here is point number 3 says time period is abbreviated, and what that means is, it says here in the What's New Online, the time period is abbreviated to economise on space. On intraday it's got 1 min, 1h, whatever. Daily is D, weekly is W, M for monthly, and Q for quarterly, Y for yearly. So that's all fairly obvious. And there's a sample there of what it looks like, TLS space D. The other thing that it says here in this What's New Online is improve clarity in chart header by displaying only share price and movement for stocks. And you might recall that up here in the top of this chart, it used to show us the open, high, low, close for the day. That's not there anymore. And if you right click and choose pane properties, there's no way that you can actually select it before we could turn it on or off. In the pane properties drop down, it's just not there. Show those details. What else have we got? Colour of the plot line is now a bar under the security code and chart header. Item 5 there. If you have a look, under up the top there where it's got XAO D572260, there's a black line under that text. That's useful because, let's say for instance I add the XJO to this and make it a line, just for argument's sake, and put it on the existing price chart and colour it maybe red so it stands out, and display new scale on left. So on this price chart we can see the candles are the All Ords, the red line is the XJO, and across the top here you can see the XJO text in the header has a red line under it. So that's going to help us quickly identify which security, which index, whatever it is we're looking at across the price chart. And that's useful if we've got a whole lot of stocks. Let's start all over again, just by way of example. Let's have a look at Commonwealth Bank. Here's Commonwealth Bank. Now don't forget, a couple of versions back, there's a new toolbar button near the top right there called Comparative Percent Performance. And that enabled us to compare any number of other stocks or indexes with the stock we're looking at. Now we're looking at CBA. Let's compare CBA with the price chart of NAB and Westpac and ANZ and the sector index. Now clicking on OK means that all of those will get added to this chart, and I specified a starting date. That red line is the start date for the comparison. I can drag that across the screen. And if you have a look across the top of the chart in the pane header, you'll see that there's a coloured line under each of those stocks. ANZ is purple, WBC is green, NAB is purple as well, slightly different purple. We can go and change any of these to make them stand out and quickly identify which is which. So ANZ is the red one. So if you're using this sort of tool and wondering which stock is which across the chart, then that's a feature that can help you identify that. So that was item number 5, and that's there in the What's New document too. There's an example. The colour of the plot line is now a bar under the stock. Yes, we've done that. Added a tooltip to the chart header. Now, as I've hovered my mouse cursor over any of these stocks in the header, then there is a little tooltip. That little box that pops up is called a tooltip, and that shows us the open, high, low, close for the period. On a daily chart it's the day, of course. For a weekly, that's open, high, low, close for the week, including the volume and the percentage movement. M, the bottom item on that list there, stands for percentage movement. Now, if you can't see these tooltips popping up at any time, then it means that in your settings, tools preferences, you might have this item turned off. Show chart tooltips when moving mouse over it. Now, I often turn mine off. That will stop those tooltips from appearing. If it's on, then that tooltip will appear. It's the same when you hover the mouse over a price plot, over the candles or a line. It tells you which item it is you're looking at. If you hover it over the volume, it shows you the daily volume for the particular volume bar we're looking at. And my black curve here is a simple moving average. So hovering the mouse cursor over that line tells me what it is. So those are tooltips. If you can't see them, there might be a good reason for it. That's tooltips in the chart header. Right-hand click on a stock symbol. Okay, this is something that's not obvious. If you've got a whole bunch of stocks, securities in a price plot, and you want to look at the properties for one of them or change it, and it's a bit difficult to do, you might want to right-click, for instance, on ANZ, and if I right-click there now, I can choose ANZ Daily Line Properties and change the properties to something else. The other thing I can do is the same thing up in the header. When I hover the mouse cursor over that stock up in the header, I can right-click there and much the same drop-down menu appears where I can change the properties or do other things like copy the plot data. Now it says there in that little tip, copy plot or indicator data to the clipboard. So if you wanted to copy all of your price data into an Excel spreadsheet, for instance, or off somewhere else, you could click on that to copy the data, or you can save the plot as a CSV file, or even add that stock to a watch list and choose one from all of your watch lists. So that drop down is available. It's almost the same. Create tip box, yes. Click on symbol in chart header to select a price plot, number 8. The key word here is select. Click on symbol in chart header to select a price plot. And you might have realized this, you might not have. With anything here in BullCharts, if you left click once on any object like the price plot, the candles, then it is selected. That item, that element on the screen is selected. And what you might be able to see here is that when I click on let's do it down here on the volume, this moving average I've got in volume, once I click on it, these little squares appear periodically across that item, across the chart, like little handles. That indicates that that item is now selected. So you can select things, especially if there's a whole bunch of confusing things like further up on the price plot. I might want to click on one item to select it and then change the properties, and I might have difficulty trying to identify it and choose the right item to modify. So if it's the ANZ price plot, the red candles, I can actually I can left click once up there, and the same thing happens. It becomes selected on the chart. If I click on any one of those securities, you'll see that the little handles appear on the price up here to indicate that it's selected. Now, most people won't have a use for that at all. It might be useful occasionally, but that's something you can do. Click on that item at the top, the security, to select that particular price plot. Click on symbol and chart header to select a price plot. I don't think the online What's New has anything more. No, same thing. Okay, number 9 says add watch list stocks as a chart overlay. Add watch list stocks as an overlay. What that's referring to is as follows, and here in the online knowledge base article, it says if you wish to overlay stocks on a chart from a watch list, right hand click on the watch list and select add symbols to chart, but only the first 20 are inserted at a time. The color of each line will be auto-generated. So what that means is as follows. Let me demonstrate. First of all, I'll close that price plot and create a new fresh one. Let's do the bank. I'll open up my security manager and go to my watch lists, and I'll find a watch list that doesn't have many stocks in it. I had one somewhere. Here we go. Here's a watch list I've got called Expo Sample with 6 stocks. Now, according to the knowledge base article, if I right click on the watch list name, I can add symbols to chart. Okay, so if I click on add symbols to chart, what happens is all of the stocks listed in that watch list will get added to my current price chart as an overlay. It says here, add watch list stocks as a chart overlay. So chart overlay is a new term that the guides have introduced. So on this price chart now, we've still got the original candles, that's CBA, and these 6 other stocks are all added on top as an overlay. If I go to the layer manager is one of those 6 items in the control panel on the right behind security manager. You can see a reference here to chart overlays, and I can hide all of them or display all of them, or I can individually unshow or hide individual ones and then reshow them again in layer manager. And you can see each of them is coloured, and you can tell which is which by looking at those coloured lines under the stock codes across the top. So just to briefly recap, if you've got a watch list with some stocks in it, you can add all of those to an existing price chart by right click and add symbols to chart. While we're looking at this, I should point out 2 more features that were new a year or 2 ago. This View Detailed Watch List and View Newswatch. Now the View Detailed Watch List will open up a new table or window pane for all of the stocks in that watch list. Here they are here, and it shows a number of columns including the last traded price, percentage movement for the period for the day, and you can sort this list by clicking on that column header and see the longest mover today. Now that can be useful, especially if you're looking at all of the stocks in an index, like where do we want index composition, S&P 200. If I right click here and choose View Detailed Watch List, then BullCharts will try to open up the same table with all 200 stocks in the XJO listed for me, and I can click on the column header here, percent move, to see which ones moved the most. So there are the losers, of course. Click again and it sorts in the other direction, and there are today's percentage movers. If anyone's got live data, you can do this during the session. If not, then after end of day you can view this, and the sequence of these columns you can change, and there are more. You can change the sequence, add others and take some away. Go to the menu item format, current view, customize current view, and just like with the toolbar configuration for templates and indicators, you can remove some from the displayed columns list, and from the available columns add some more. And there's a whole lot of there that could be added that are currently not displayed, so you can modify that too. Number 10, drag and drop symbols from your watch list to overlay on the chart. There the reference to symbols is synonymous with stocks. Now I've taken that exactly as it is online in the knowledge base, drag and drop symbols. So what that's saying is if you go across to your security manager, you can click on any stock here and drag it and add it to the chart, and that gets added as an extra new one. And you can do that with all these others if you want to add them, and just go to town and keep adding symbols, adding stocks from your watch list to the price chart. Now after a while it gets pretty messy, but if you wanted to do some comparison, and it might be, and here's one possible use for this. If I start off again with just a plain chart of Commonwealth Bank, CBA, and I go to comparative percent performance and put in these codes again. Now, please feel free to stop and ask at any time if something's not clear, especially with features like this comparative percent performance. If you've not seen it before, we can have a chat about it. 0.8 I'll make there. Okay. So there's comparative percent performance for Commonwealth Bank and its peers and the sector. Now the sector XFJ is that dotted line there. Now we might want to add to that other banks, and we can find those banks by going up here to industry groups, going to financials and banks. And you might want to pick one like Bendigo and Adelaide, so I can click and drag that and add that to the chart too. Now that's that purple one. I can click on it up here where it says Ben, and then go straight to this option here and change the color. Now that chart style toolbar is usually locked at the top. I usually dock mine at the bottom. We'll put it up there because that's where people like to see it. Oh, dock, there you go. And you can change the color of something that's selected. Once it's selected, just use the drop down and change the color. So that was adding symbols, drag and drop symbols from your watch list to overlay on the chart, and that gets overlaid on the price chart. It says overlaid. Yeah, go on. Question.
Robert, yeah, just while we're on watch list, I discovered, and this may have been around for a fair while, but I'm a bit messy with watch lists, and they start to grow and multiply, and I had goal 1, for example, and goal 2.
Yeah.
I was able to click on all the goal 2s and drag them into goal 1 and get rid of one watch list.
Oh, yes.
Have you done that before?
I've not actually done exactly that. I think.
So, for example, you could have bug 2 and drag all of those into BCUG.
Yeah.
You could highlight all of them, or drag 1 or 2, and you could just drag from one watch list to the other.
Yes.
I found it quite useful for a bit of housekeeping.
Yes, you're right. There are a couple of ways to do things like that, and it's probably something that a lot of people wouldn't want to do or need to do very often. But you're right. If I just click and drag that watch list name, you can see the little plus symbol appears.
Yeah.
To indicate that the stocks listed in that watch list will now be added to another watch list.
That's right. Yep.
The same thing, something similar by using the drop down. We can add to watch list. The other thing you can do with these is if you go to the properties dialog, you can copy and paste these symbols from there to anywhere else.
Oh, yeah.
That's something I do from time to time. I copy symbols from one list to another.
Yep.
But what you've said is, that seems to work very well as well. That was one I wasn't familiar with, so thanks for pointing that one out, David. I was about to say that the notes here talk about a chart overlay, and that becomes more apparent if we have a look at the layer manager, because as I mentioned before, it shows here that the chart overlays. Now, all of these are overlays on top of the base price plot, the stock that we start with. And a lot of things happen like that because you can insert another price chart over the top of the one we're looking at, over CBA, using the option Insert Security. Now insert security, and you type the symbol, is basically the same as finding it in a watch list and dragging it and copying it like we did a minute ago. So the base chart starts out as CBA, and everything else that gets added on top of it are actually overlays. And that's terminology that we're now using. Item 11 on my summary list says Control plus Delete to delete all overlaid securities. So hold down the Control key and tap Delete, and this has been extended now. This has been around for a while, but there's now an extra item at the bottom. Delete the chart overlays off the price pane.
Yes, so I've got the pattern indicator turned on. The layer manager helps me work out which patterns I want to look at rather than looking at all of them at the same time.
Yeah, that's a really good one. If we add the candle pattern indicator to this chart, and I've got it saved as one of my templates, and you can see here that for those who haven't seen this candle pattern indicator, this is what we're talking about, and it identifies and names a number of the candle patterns that it can see. Now, by default, not all of the candle patterns are named there. Now, if I have a look at the layer manager and look down this list, you can see a list of all of the candle patterns by name, but not all of them are ticked. Some of these boxes are not ticked. CBA Weekly White is not ticked. If I tick it, does that go and then indicate, yeah, shows a few, no, it shows or it labels a few more of the candles. Weekly Black is not. But all of the others in my case here are. That's not the default setting. The default setting is to have only a few selected or visible. Yes, you're right. You can go through and untick some of those and look for only the patterns that you're interested in. Let's delete that off the chart. Weekly candles. It says here in the knowledge base, option to delete multiple items. So if I wanted to delete several of these all at once, I can hold down the Control key and click, 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 and then delete with using that cross at the top. That deletes them all. So it's holding down the Control key and clicking them will select them so that you can do something like delete.
Delete all.
Yep. What's next? Item 13 in my summary list says News section for chart overlays in Layer Manager. We looked at that one. That's this chart in Layer Manager. Toggle to hide or display chart overlays. We looked at how to do that in Layer Manager too, just by clicking on some or all of these. You can hide or unhide. 15 says what's new is now part of the BullCharts knowledge base with the help menu option to select it. Yes. I'll just Control Delete to delete the overlays here. Go back to the basic chart and go to the default. What that last option is saying is that under the menu item help, there are now a couple of extra items, including the BullCharts knowledge base. So if you click on BullCharts knowledge base from that drop down, it'll take you to the BullCharts online knowledge base in your web browser. So if you wanted to go to the knowledge base and look up some of those sorts of things we've been looking at tonight, that's an option on the help. The other thing that's here is an item getting started with BullCharts and a what's new. So those two items under the help menu item are useful as well. And for anyone who's not looked at getting started with BullCharts, it is a good one to use because when you choose that option, it takes you into the help and straight to chapter 3, getting started. And it runs through a lot of topics that are useful to do in sequence for anyone new to BullCharts. Now, it's probably worth everyone having a quick look through that list at some stage because there might be something useful or relevant, like alarms, for instance. So that's something to have a look at some stage. What's new? Add symbol shortcut, add to chart header, the plus sign. Oh yes. One of the subtle things added here is this plus sign in the top left corner. If I click on the plus sign, then it brings up the dialog to insert new symbol. That's the same as going to the menu Insert Security. Exactly the same item. And miscellaneous bug fixes. That's all that I've got listed in the summary document. And if we go to the online version, scroll down, I think that covers everything on the list. So there's a quick run through of the new features in 4.4. What's a little bit confusing, what I've just commented on, I'll briefly explain. Across the top here, I was automatically expecting to see the stock code. In this case, this is CBA Bank. I was expecting to see CBA at the top left corner of the screen, but it's not there. It says MA, moving average.
Yeah.
CBA is to the right. Now, I'll show you exactly why that happens. If I, for instance, change to candles, have a look at any one of these white candles and notice that the two moving average lines appear to be behind the white candles. That's because on all of these price charts, when you put a number of elements onto the price plot, they appear on top of each other, or one in front of the other, or behind. And in this case here, the candle is actually in front of the moving average. Now if I right click on the candle and select order from the drop down and click on send to back, the candle goes to the back. The moving average is now in front of the candles, and you can see in the top left corner of the price plot, CBA is now the very left-hand entry on that pane header.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's good.
Okay, now a further example of that is with the Guppy multiple moving average. And I've got to do this for this template, I've got to use the All Odds index. To see the same here, the Guppy multiple moving average is shown in front of. If I don't want that in front, I can change the candles to be in front. Right click for candles, or bring to front. And again, you'll see the sequence of the elements across the top of the pane. Those references change. So that might be useful at some stage. We'll wrap it up there. Thank you everyone for your interest in participating. Happy to take emails and answer questions offline. If I can't deal with it or whatever, we can always get the guys in Sydney to have a look at it as well. And good luck with your challenges. Thank you all for participating.